And welcome back to the Sexy Business Podcast. As always, I'm Lewd Neko, and joining me is Spooky Dangerous.
Hello.
And today we are going to be talking about a collection of games from the Circlejerks Publishing Cooperative, though you probably know them because they all feature art by Doxy.
Yeah, Onta Doxy has been like a really successful artist in the NSFW space for quite a long time. I first discovered them from a lot of the comics that they've done, and it's like a really clean and colorful style, and it's really polished compared to a lot of the other artists in the space. And what kind of started out in the games area was this collection of games featuring the character which you can see on screen, Jenny, who is ridiculously disproportionate. Um, and her Jenny's first game was on Newgrounds. That's where I found it. And it was kind of a big reveal that it was a Fuda character. None of the name or anything implied that Jenny was Fuda, and then as you're playing through, you're like texting with this person, and then she kind of reveals it to you, and then you just have the option to be very excited about it or not. Um, and then now that we have the Steam version, and the Steam version, which is many years later, is a collection of Jenny specific games, and this came out last year, or maybe the year before. Um, and it basically ported a lot of stuff and then like added a little bit of extra content. And so it's basically Circlejerk's coming and building a game as I understand it, and then Doxy is coming and doing all of the illustrating. And the reason why I wanted to do this episode is because there's a new one coming out soon, Hazel in the Deep, and we thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about kind of through the history of Circlejerk's publishing and how we got to Hazel in the Deep as it is now. But starting us off is the first game in their catalog, Sweet Dream Succubus, which I believe you have played.
Yeah, so I've actually streamed this one, I think twice, because I usually would do like some sort of like Halloweeny monster fucky games, and this one's pretty cute. It's also a crossover with Swimsuit Succubus, for those of you who are familiar with her, and I think she is very cute. So it was kind of cool to see that they collabed for this. So the Succubus character is based on Swimsuit Succubus's personage and like some of the costumes and stuff that she's done. It's a pretty basic visual novel. So your average guy McDude and a succubus has set her sights on you. So you kind of have to make choices to not get your soul drained too hard. And I guess like the big gimmick with this one is since she's a succubus, she can sort of transform to all sorts of different costumes. So you have a lot of that kind of role play. Like she's a nun at one point. There's like a nurse scene. She's a sexy like jogger, a delivery woman. So it's like very highly like role play based, but also just really gorgeous art, nice designs and stuff like that. However, I got this game when it was like very first released, and it was missing, from what I remember, some like pretty major features. Just like very basic things you would expect in a visual novel. Like, I believe there was saves missing in the very first version. I hope I'm correct about that. And I know there was things missing, like like a gallery or like the typical like auto and fast forward options you would expect from a visual novel, just again, like very basic stuff. And I think they have fixed some of it. I do believe there's a gallery now, and maybe they've tweaked some of the things since then. But I think the fact that you fucked up a visual novel is sort of a pretty bad thing to start off with, since I mean anyone can kind of make a visual novel even if they have very little like coding experience. I don't know what engine this was in. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Ren'Py, so I don't know what they decided to do it in or why they decided to make it hard on themselves. And you'll see that this will end up becoming a trend, unfortunately, with a lot of their visual novels.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of why we wanted to talk about Circlejerks in particular more than Doxy. Doxy is kind of the draw card. And a thing that we were kind of just talking about before we started recording was Doxy's Twitter account has 252,000 followers, and the Circlejerks Twitter account has eight. Eight. So it really does feel like a amateur producer has coined some kind of a relationship with Doxy and is working together to be able to create stuff which, I don't know, feels like some kind of value add to what's kind of stuff Doxy is making, like a new way to monetize the art, um, but isn't really fully delivering, I guess. But after Sweet Dream Succubus was Sexina and the Gladiatorial Arena, and basically every year since Sweet Dream Succubus, with the exception of 2021, I think, Circlejerk has released a game with Doxy. And most of them are regarded as incomplete or missing features or like just kind of not really it, like just not quite there. Um, and so obviously similar things about Sexina, and then after that was Outside the Box. Now, long-term fans of the channel will remember that in our gripes and complaints episode, this was the one and only game that I could list as a thing that I thought was terrible. But the difference is Outside the Box is not Onta Doxy, it's Tokifuji. So it's furry characters, but like Tokifuji is also incredibly highly received in the field in the same way as Onta Doxy. And then after Outside the Box was Jenny's Dong. And a lot of the complaints about the Jenny's Dong collection was that a lot of it kind of existed already. It really wasn't enough new and exciting things to warrant the price point that it was. And then now, after all of this, we come to Hazel in the Deep, which is the new one. And it hasn't come out yet. It's supposed to be coming out soon, as I understand it. And my concerns are still the same. Currently, the Steam page looks dog shit. The Steam trailer looks like a collection of assets that Doxy just tweeted, and then someone has downloaded and put them end to end, which is crazy because if you're the publisher of this game, you should have access to the entire assets in the game. You use whatever you want and put it in there. So,
And well, like, yeah, even with like the CGs that they chose for just the photos, so they have a card page for the Hazel in the Deep, which has better images. It has like some sexy stuff that would make you actually want to play the game. So I'm trying to wrap my head around why they decided not to use those for the Steam page. I was wondering if it was some sort of Steam issue. I know sometimes Steam can get weird about what kinds of content you put on store pages, but there's really nothing in these images that are, crazy. It's just a big titty demon and then a small titty demon with a big old cock.
which is nothing too crazy, just generally. I have a hunch that to be able to release on Steam, you have to have an active Steam page that's listed as coming soon for 2 weeks. So they must have just been like, oh, let's fucking do it as quick as we can and get something on there just enough to meet approval. And then maybe when it actually comes out and we start the marketing cycle, make a real page. I'm kind of guilty of this as well. But also all the stuff that I release is in early development. There isn't that much assets to show off, right? And so now I'm in a situation where I'm looking at the mistakes that I've made and I'm looking at them making the exact same choices that I did, going, is this actually incredibly early access and not really a full game yet? And you've just literally put everything that you have up on there? Because Doxy hasn't been posting about Hazel and the Deep for very long. And I've seen all of the art assets 3 times now in 3 different places, which makes me think that that is all of the art assets. So I'm a little cautious when it comes to this one.
Yeah, and the description also isn't really super enticing, I would say. Usually these descriptions for these kinds of games will feature some more images or like character art, because if you're looking for a porn game, you don't want to read a paragraph about the story. You want to see what you're gonna fuck in this game. And then all of the improvements, they make sense with the context that this was, originally on like Newgrounds, but it feels kind of silly to be advertising that your visual novel has a gallery, has saving functions. You can change the display. It's like these are like bare minimum. I would be more gassed if it didn't have that. So it feels incredibly weird that that's what they chose to prioritize instead of like, I don't know, describing what kinds of kinks or fetishes you're going to see in this game or something like that.
Yeah. One of the other things that is interesting about the Jenny's Dong collection Yeah, the way that it's presented is you're texting with Jenny, and pretty much all of the character dialogue and stuff is delivered through text messages. There isn't really narration or anything like that. And then all the images delivered in the game are photos that she's sent to you on the phone. So there isn't really any animations or anything like that. But shown in the trailer for Hazel in the Deep is animations that look like it's the first half of a sex animation. Because one of the succubus characters looks like she's riding you, but there's no other character there. It's just her kind of doing squats in the frame. So I wonder if this is just like the first half of an animation test, and they're like, "Look, oh my god, we have animations. Tell everyone," and they've put it up there, hoping for the best. But if that was the case, wouldn't you mention that? Wouldn't you post on the thing like, "Yo, this is the first Onta Doxy game that has big animation
they
scenes in it"?
They do have it as the second one, but it's kind of towards the end. It says all of Doxy character art animated, specifically the jiggly bits. So it sounds more like it's like the 2.5D animation where
Yeah.
they make the art jiggle a little bit. I don't think it's going to be like full on, actual animated sequences.
Well, as you can see from our lovely animated background, you can actually find on ehente.net a full rip of the entire list of game assets in the Jenny's Dong collection. And I mean all of them because it has all of the backgrounds, it has all of the clickable icons and all that kind of stuff as well as like just kind of screenshots of what some of the actual texting conversations and gameplays look like. But included within that was GIFs of the Jenny idle animation that accompanies the phone on part of the screen. And as you can see on screen, it moves incredibly minorly. It's supposed to just kind of mirror her breathing, but when you're like a 150 22 44, it's kind of ridiculous to expect that you wouldn't actually move that much, just kind of idling, just kind of standing there. So I don't know. It's interesting. It feels like they're doing the bare minimum, releasing a game. A whole bunch of people get excited about it. It does shit. They sell a whole bunch of it. They abandon it, and then they move on. And like, look, I don't normally like accusing people of any of these kind of things or having these kind of mentalities or whatever, but that's how, as a customer, it feels, right? And so part of the way to circumvent that sometimes is to be very transparent about the development process. Like, hello, I've been talking about how fucking hard some of this stuff can be, and how aggressively negative some of the customers can be. And like, look, maybe it's hypocritical of me to sit here and throw stones at somebody else's glass house, but it does kind of feel like that's what's happening here. Like, there's a lot of older games that they've made that they could have done like a big re-release for. They could have come back and added a bunch of features and added a bunch more content. It's not like Doxy has evaporated. Doxy could still go back and work on some of these older games, and then they do a big update and they do a big sales push. Steam has this built-in marketing engine where whenever you release an update, you have the ability to opt into a marketing cycle, and the marketing cycle lasts for 30 days. And in that image thing that kind of happens, you get new splash art and then you write a little description. And you could literally be like, we've just changed all these cool things, check all these new features, big new chunk of story, whole new whatever, blah, blah, blah. Come back and check out the game. And so like a lot of things that transition from early access to like fully released and stuff do this kind of thing. And then like maybe a couple of months later, release a new update with more content, do the same thing. And it's like, instead of churn and burning, why don't you like reignite the marketing cycle on something previous? Like you have the opportunity to do it 6 times, and I so don't believe that they've used it all 6 times on each of the previous projects, especially some of the newer ones. Like Outside the Box is only 2 years old, Jenny's Dong is only 1 year old, and the amount of 30 days periods in 1 year I know is greater than 6, but it's unlikely they did them all back to back the entire time. So they had to have some space to, come back and revitalize some of these old projects, which is why I'm a bit worried looking at this new thing and going, it's really bare. Jenny's Dawn came out a year ago, and yes, most of the content was already complete, but there's not really any guarantee that Doxy has been working on this new project for very long. So I'm skeptical. I'm comfortably
Yeah.
skeptical.
I think it's also relevant to talk about the pricing here. So swimsuits or the Sweet Dream Succubus is $5, but the rest of the games are all $10. And from what it sounds like, all of these games are essentially just more like art collections with, some very loose visual novel elements in between. And on one hand, I can understand because Doxy is such a high profile artist why they're charging so much, but it's just like I think in the visual novel market, there's a different perception of how you price things versus if this had just been released as like an art pack. Like I think you could actually sell Sweet Dream Succubus for $5 as just like a CG like art collection. And I think people would buy that more easily than like with like a $5 to $10 visual novel. You're expecting some form of like gameplay or story that's like kind of
A certain amount of
interesting.
hours played, right? And I don't know that any of these games make it to the 2 hour mark.
Yeah, or it sounds like I know some of the reviews were like it gets you right to the 2 hour mark, and then like I think this is specifically for Sexina, which I think is their most egregious failure in my opinion. I haven't played it, but I the reviews are pretty negative, and from what it sounds like is they basically released a unfinished game. It seems like it's entirely abandoned, and you get enough to tease you, and then you get a lot of unfinished endings and unfinished content and really boring and repetitive like combat gameplay.
Okay, but hang on.
And
I'm
I mean
having an idea here. The ultimate tease and denial game. You boot it up, there's one teasing scene, and the game ends, and then you have to buy DLC if you want to come. That's it. I will be
no, not
collecting everybody's dollars now. Thank you.
not Findom. And I mean, just for like comparison, so Love Sucks, which we talked about previously, Night 2 is $10. And that's also like really high quality art. Like it has actual choice and sort of interesting systems. It's not fully voice acted, but it has some voice acting in it. Or just like there's like so many other like games like on Steam that I can just look through right now that are in that $5 to $10 range and are offering much more. Like this market is becoming competitive. Maybe during like the beginning of Steam having adult games, it really wasn't as much yet because it was just like whoever could get their shit on there the
Yeah.
fastest. But at this point, there's lots of adult games coming out. There's really good ones that are hitting like the top charts on Steam, like on a weekly basis. So if you're producing half-baked visual novels that aren't even really visual novels, um, I mean, this would not be for me. I can't see myself really buying any of these games unless somehow they have fixed all of the problems.
I do want to circle back to the Love Sucks comparison because we talked a lot about this in that episode, but they did a whole free release on Steam of what is it, Night One, I think it's called, and then
Hmm.
now the next release is $10, and the equivalency of that is Jenny's Dong, where we had the kind of free release of a lot of the content on Newgrounds, and then it came back as a collection for $10. But the difference is Love Sucks Night 2 or Night 3 or whatever it is all new content. It's not a recycling of the thing that exists already. You couldn't have played it for free somewhere before. And the free intro thing is like prologue is the wrong word, but like an introduction to the whole story and introduces all the characters and all that kind of stuff. And then you pay the money and you get the more high quality, more impact, more stuff. And they have the first night as like not like a demo, but like a way to hook you as the customer. It costs
Yeah.
nothing. You come in, you play it, and you come and check it out. Whereas Jenny's Dong is you come in and you play it for free, and then you spend the $10, so it's the same game for the most part, and you're like, well, why have you done this? And it just kind of reflects a mindset of they just are trying to monetize Doxy. They're not trying to make a product. They're like it feels like they've done something like Patreon or like any of those kind of buy sites where you put up content on there, and they've gone, this really just isn't making enough. How am I going to monetize these 252,000 followers? We'll make a product and put it onto the marketplace. And the making of the product part is what's been done really shit. But the quality of the art has carried it this far. So anyone that doesn't know anything or has just seen like Doxy because has a pretty large reaching influence over the NSFW art sphere goes, oh cool, there's a game for that now. I'll buy it, I'll try it out, and not knowing anything before, they're gonna get sucked here and go, well, okay, great, that was not what I wanted, or that was not great. And then a lot of the reviews kind of reflects this kind of mentality of the I'm disappointed. I wish it was more, and I feel the same way about Subverse, which we talked about previously, where it's like we wanted more for Subverse because we were promised so much, because we know how much money has gone into it, and we know how good the creators can do. And then now we go, well, I know how great Doxy could make something. I've read the comics, which is like 40 pages of uninterrupted greatness, sometimes more. And then you go, okay, what if just literally just take the fucking comic and animated it into a visual novel and got someone to voice act it? That's a product. We literally did that with Black Contract. We took CubeZ's 28-page comic, paid someone to voice act the one character that's in it, ran through the whole thing. Game plays for like 15 minutes, which is why it's not on Steam. But it's like really successful on our itch.io and on our Patreon. And it's just like kind of here's like a cool sample of a thing that we could have made. And it's like, what? You could have just done that for all of Doxy stuff. You don't even have to fucking make any game. You just cut all the art assets and then animate them to appear on the screen. It's dead simple. And knowing that there was other easier things that they could have done that would have been better, it feels strange that this is the path that they've taken, and this is the scenario that we're in. Wondering, is it going to be good? Will they ever have a redemption kind of a thing?
Yeah, again, it's just one of those things where this was so easy to get right that it feels like egregious that they managed to fuck it up and get it so wrong. Like you have a recipe for success. You have Doxy. All you have to do is create at least a functional, non-offensive visual novel. And if somehow you have like glitches in your visual novel or like achievements and scenes that can't be viewed or like save and not being able to skip like again like really basic stuff that the most amateurs of amateurs could
But
figure out,
Renpai
it's
has
just
it built in.
ridiculous.
You don't need to create those things. Renpai has it built in. So I really
Yeah.
do wonder what engine they're using to make their own lives harder. But also for me, part of my complaint is very obviously going to be professional jealousy, right? Like to look at them and see the kind of any kind of success that they're having, or having the opportunity to work with people like Toki Fuji and Doxy. I would love to do that. I would love to have an opportunity to do those things, and there's a good chance that I would do just as much a mediocre job or worse. But it's like, why do I get to see this guy fuck it up? That could be me. I could be that guy.
Doxy, please.
Yeah, Doxy, my DMs are always open. It's at top two hot milfs. I am in fact one of the two hot milfs, and you are welcome to be one of the others if you if you want. We could make a game. We could do that. So I don't know. I don't know if Circlejerks has like some kind of exclusivity, or if Circlejerks just literally is Doxy, and it's just them learning how to make games while also doing art, and it's just like already overcommitted or something like that, and they just haven't had the time to be able to put it all together and make it happen. It's really hard to know when people aren't as transparent about things, and this is why I'm actually more and more every day since we did the episode about RFH games and benefits ship, where it's like just benefits ship's entire Twitter feed is the yep, this is what our sales are like for this month, this is what we're working on, this is the thing that we've made, this is what Steam is like. And I'm like, damn, that's kind of based because no one else is really doing that. And every single other person like making stuff or whatever, even Subverse, right? We're like, we know you had $1 million, and then you look at the updates on Steam, and they're just like 60 bug fixes and like 3 new animations, and like here is the scene that we've completed, and you're like, okay, I'm doing the same shit, man. I'm much less impressive about it, but what I want to know is where all the money went.
Yeah,
See,
it
every
almost
month,
reminds me
same
of in
thing.
like of in like Hollywood, where you have like all those shitty, horrible films that they have like one famous actor. So like,
Yeah,
your mom wants to go see it and it makes $1 billion anyways.
yeah, yeah. Or the like, all right, we're gonna absolutely spiral off topic here, but my insanely scolding hot take is the Acolyte was a throwaway project because Disney released it right before the tax submission cutoff, and they wanted to lose a lot of money on purpose to reduce how much tax they had to pay. And I think about that kind of stuff a lot because look, it's fucking hard to run a small business like this, especially if you're like a one person team creator and you're an artist, or you know you have this one skill, and each year it feels like it gets harder and harder to be able to capitalize on that and get paid for that, because doing commissions, no one that will commission you can pay what an artist's industry value is worth. And for you to actually get a real illustrator job in industry working on projects and stuff, then you have to have done all the uni and ridiculous shit so you can have all these qualifications for them to even want to do that. And then you're hustling and you're grinding and you're trying to build this gigantic network of people that follow you for your stuff. And then even if you have 252,000 followers like Doxy does, how do you turn that into money? Well, there's stuff like
Mm.
Patreon, or like the classic we see all the time, the OnlyFans creator is the, oh, I blew up on TikTok and I have a massive rack time to collect dollars. But it just doesn't quite work the same. Also, OnlyFans, you are not allowed to upload just art. You have to verify that you are a real human being. So you can't even use that platform. And then looking around at where you could actually sell art like that, Steam seems like a fine option. But the people of Steam are like, we're here for games. I wanted to play a game. I don't know what this is, but it's not quite a game. And it's like, you could have just spent a little bit more time, or you could have been like, hey, look, I'm still starting out. We're doing our best. We understand that these features are really required. We didn't do the required reading and study to understand the target market or whatever, but we're making an effort to go back and fix it. Instead of like trying again, trying again, trying again, and now game 5 being like, hey, you'll want this one. We have a save function. And it's like,
Trust us.
that's great. I wonder if it was like, ah, fuck it, I'm not putting in a save function. These people are just gonna play it, crank their shit, come, close the game, and then want to start from the start anyway. It's like, okay, sure. Again, saves are built in if you're working with Rempire, so I don't know why why that's come up and been a problem.
I
So
feel like if you are a upcoming aspiring game dev, you've learned everything. If you are on a time crunch or you don't know shit about coding, just use RenPy. Stop trying to make it run in a different engine. Stop trying to do fancy shit in Unity. You don't need to.
yeah, Unreal Engine just to simulate a 2D visual novel. Let's fucking go. Yeah, so I don't know. It does feel a bit like that. Like they've bitten off more than they can chew, or that either right, they're overwhelmed and unable to deliver, and they feel like the project has come to a point where it's irredeemable, and so they abandon it and move on. And I understand that. That's like a psychological thing. But I personally don't think that they're irredeemable, and I think that you could come back and work on it for a little while, re-release it to the marketing cycle, and make some more money on it, and like there's plenty of games that have come out and been dog shit. Cyberpunk, and then people have been like, oh no, wait, hang on, 1.1 just came out. Cyberpunk is good now. And then, work on building that customer trust before releasing another project and running away with more money. So I think that there's definitely space for these things to become good. I think that there's space for them to still be bad, and it is fully possible that they are just trying to steal your money. But I don't know. Everything here is just kind of speculative. Everything here is just from us on the outside looking in. And that's why being transparent about this kind of stuff and talking about it and kind of understanding what's supposed to happen in the NSFW space and like the demands of the customer and what you're competing against and all this kind of stuff is really important. And that's kind of why we spend a lot of time looking at these things, because it helps us operate in this stuff. Like knowing what games people are really excited for is going to help Neko pick out stuff that's going to really pop off as a stream, right? Instead of playing stuff that no one gives a shit about, or they're already colored off on, and they're like, oh no, I don't care, I'm not interested. I already know it's dog shit. Why would I bother watching the stream? So it pays for us to kind of follow and see what's doing well and strong, and that is one of the upsides of us doing the Sexy Business podcast. Is we get to learn and investigate and find out about a bunch of this kind of different stuff, but also share it with you, the viewer, because I'm sure a lot of you are interested in a lot of the different games that we cover, but also interested in the perspective of people that kind of work around it. Like, obviously, this is not filmed with our dicks in our hand. It's Locktober, for Christ's sake. And this is supposed to be an informational podcast. We're trying to figure out stuff. and so that we can grow and be better and do all this kind of stuff, but also so that you can get an idea of what kind of stuff exists out there, maybe why it was good, maybe why it was bad, did we like it, what's going on. And so obviously, once again, this is the end of our time here at the Sexy Business Podcast. So if you're curious about any of this kind of stuff, we always answer questions in the comments, and I am always curious to know, which games do you guys like? Is there a specific Circlejerks game that you enjoy? Does Jenny's dong really do have it going on? I would love to know. But also, while you're there, you should hit the like button. You should hit the subscribe button, because my coworker creates a hostile workspace unless if she is made happy by the button pressing. So when you ring the bell for notifications, she gets to ring the bell on her collar, and we get to have a great time. You know the drill. We do this every week. Look, if you've been listening for 30 minutes, just click all the goddamn buttons. We've earned it. And then hopefully we will see you next week, same time, same channel, on the Sexy Business Podcast.
Bye bye.